Alright, this is just a little bonus story that I did record for the Halloween special, and it ended up being kinda incomprehensible, so I didn't really want to stick it in the main video, and I just wanted to have it as a standalone piece. I've not bothered doing any real video editing during the story, so this is more like an audio episode only, where you can just put it on in the background, do something else, just have a listen. Because this one is pretty hard to get to grips with. I think the original writer is Italian, so there's a lot of wonky translations. Anyway, hope you enjoy it. Our second story of the evening comes to us from Mr. Legend and is entitled Yu-Gi-Oh! Tag Force 6, The Deleted. Good evening, people. Tonight I want to tell my curious experience. Who I am, I will not tell you. I prefer to consider me a generic person, a visionary, perhaps a fool, or an idiot who wants to tell his misfortunes to people who probably did not even hear, because it will have a lot better than listening to the ravings of a madman. And as we can tell by the syntax of this sentence, this man do indeed be mad. For anyone who has time to spare, this is my story. I am a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh!, the card game and anime. I want to clarify that I am referring to the anime original Japanese, not that clown show of 4Kids. Anyone who knows the truth know that the souls of itself, at least the first and second series, the real fans know whereof I speak, contains numerous references to death and the occult, where playing cards did not mean saving the world as he wanted us to believe, the Americans, but simply head-to-head and grow from a spiritual standpoint. Sorry, I take the opportunity to spread a little of healthy culture and terrible writing. Let the point. In addition to the anime and the card game, they could not miss the countless video games, like any successful franchise respectable. Having a PSP, I obviously concentrated on the series Tag Force, just for the sake of playing cards. Started from the GX series, it has closed the third chapter, and the fourth to 6 in the series 5Ds. But the economic interest comes first. What does? For this reason, the last season of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds has never been broadcast in America, and in order to publicize the new cards, the monsters XYZ have jumped directly to the series ZXL, leaving the story in half. This caused the non-distribution of the last game of the series in the world, i.e. Tag Force 6. It is only in Japanese for PSP, although it seems to be expected to be released for PS Vita in the future. As a good fan that I am, I wanted to play it at all costs, so I've got a custom firmware of the latest version. In this way, I was able to play a pirated version of the game. Thanks to a patch in English, I've even been able to enjoy, in an understandable, uncensored, absurd cards. Of course, the translation was not complete, given that such dialogue still had the lyrics in Japanese, reasons of functionality, but frankly, I did not care so much. I just wanted to enjoy some nice game with artificial intelligence. Always be able to make mistakes, idiots. Then one day something happened. Unusual. During one of my usual game, I selected the hospital from the map. It was about 11 PM, when the game was almost night. As usual, I am taken to advance in the scenario, and there was almost no one, as expected given the late hour. But someone was there, down the path. I found myself in front of a figure as high as my avatar, whitish skin, totally naked and devoid of anatomical features, i.e. had no face and feet were no fingers. I had not even a jewel disc. Then I thought it was impossible to fight us,
but I approached, I noticed that the window appeared into statistics: victory, defeat, and a draw. In addition, both the name of the character and the deck were marked with question marks. I raised an eyebrow, not a little puzzled. Usually in Tag Force 6, each NPC has its own name immediately visible. I tried to talk. His figure in the foreground did not appear, and all you had to tell it was only ... Whatever that Selezione nasty cards, numbers, or interested people. To put it in terms hurry, it seemed not Kagami rag. But then I reasoned, not having a mouth, it was only natural that he could not talk. After closing the dialogue, she reappeared the statistics pane, and this time something was different. Instead of the character's name had appeared deleted. What the But when he told me his name, the thing I was leaving stunned. But this secret feature was interesting, and I was intrigued. So I put aside the console, and I did a quick search online by typing Tag Force 6 deleted. To my regret, there was almost nothing on the net, but we know the internet. If you want to find the gems, you have to know how to dig in the dirt. And so, turning dozens of pages, I ran into the following discussion. Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's Tag Force 6 Pagan. Not much, but enough for me. It was now evident that mine was not an isolated case. I picked up the console. Nothing had changed. I was still the same screen, and that mysterious opponent had not moved. Everyone was afraid to face him. I do not deny that I was not exactly quiet. This story reminded me vaguely Theory Buried Alive model, and this seemed to be the Slender Man without underwear. To think so is almost laughable, but I wanted to see if I could have continued to do so after it is challenged. So I decided. I spoke with him, and I selected Jewel. Everything seemed to proceed normally. There was the selection of rock, paper, and scissors to decide who would start first. And at that moment, I noticed that the box of my opponent did not show any images. It was a simple box with a red background, but no character inside. I selected Sasso, and my opponent, he selected Shears. I won, and it was up to me to decide who would start. I choose to go first. Appeared the screen Versus, and I could see for the first time the name of my opponent's deck was ... I should have expected. I wondered what kind of opponent I would have found before. There was entertainment introductory his part. I was thrown directly to the Jewel, and I noticed that there was no music track. They could hear only the sound effects. Patience. As mentioned before, the first round fell to me. I opened the game, evoking Dragon Hunter, attack 1700, and placing a card. I spent the end phase, declaring the end of my shift. He fell to him, and I summoned a monster himself. His name was ... No. No was found to be a normal monster, is devoid of attribute, both of level, is of type. He had 0/0 attack and defense. In the picture, there was not just anyone, it was white, and the description was limited to a now classic ... But if the paper did not represent just anyone, that's why the heck had to exist. Moreover, even the most insignificant monster was bound to have an attribute, a level, and a type. That card was really weird, bizarre, as it was the fact that my opponent had summoned, i.e. putting in attack mode, ready to be opened in two like a muscle, and 0 attack against 1700 is obvious who the cues. However, immediately after summoned, he placed the card and handed me his hand. After fishing, not more than expected, I went to the attack, and at that time my opponent activated a trap. Nothing. It was a continuous trap, also with right image and text with just an ellipsis, another card, virtually useless. I sent to the graveyard this monster does not exist without too many problems, dealing full damage to my opponent with all of my dragon's attack and lowering his life points to 6,300. This duel seemed to be very easy, maybe too much, and experience teaches us to be wary. I placed the monster in defense and finished. He fell to him. He played a continuous spell, empty. Another white paper. Continuous spell and void. I just could not explain the usefulness of those cards. I suspected right that together they would allow the evocation of a monster card powerful or the activation of a spell trap with devastating effects. I never would have discovered if not playing. It was still his turn. He evoked another No, and then finally activated a spell, True, Monster Reborn, which he used to call each other No in attack mode. At that point, I thought the artificial intelligence of this tool now was gone in trout, as you can come up with to summon a normal monster card with 0 point, always attack position. Not even the programmer or Rinquitino would set such a thing. He could not even do summon Xyz for 2 reasons. Its monsters lacked level, and also his extra deck was empty, and we were also in the 5Ds era, so Xyz monsters did not exist. It seemed that my opponent was leading to suicide. Her shift ended and the turn come to me. I fished. I went to the main phase 1 and decided that I was just breaking the shit. I evoked Skeleton Cyber Oscuro, attack 800, and I evoked for discovery Dragunity Phalanx. Then, as the Phalange was a level 2 tuner and Skeleton monster of level 4, I sent them to the graveyard to synchro summon the Iron Chain Dragon, level 6, attack 2500. I went to battle phase and prepared the Carnage, a big hit with both 1700 and 2500, and made out to be monsters that 4200 of its stores, which collapsed in 2100. In addition, through the effects of Chain Wrestling, they are forced to discard 3 cards from the top of the deck. In short, in spite of the fears of all, I was nothing short Stravescendo without my opponent could do nothing to contrast army. However, while the cards were discarded, Sigranel eyes and went immediately to examine the cemetery. I do not believe it. The 3 cards, 2 were 2 copies of none, and there was impossible. According to the rules, you cannot have more than 3 copies of the same card in the deck, but this deleted had 4. And what was the point of all this? Wanting to shoot a theory, being no, the monsters did not exist and therefore did not have to submit to the rule of multiple copies? But in any case, they could also be 10 or 20. Until they had 0 points, they could not do a damn thing. I sincerely hoped that my opponent, if they come out with something that sooner or later I would have dismissed their life points in a jiffy. It would be a huge breakthrough that could make this one of the more powerful opponents in the game. I shook my head and went back to Earth, telling myself to stop me mental chicanery. I placed a paper spell trap and finished the round. He fished, conjured up yet another No, the 5th that saw the start of the match. He activated another copy of Empty and he placed a card. Then I snorted and exclaimed aloud, "What a bore!" This duel was proving to be really boring. Inflicted damage in an incredibly simple, and I was not blocked in any way. I was a doubt. What if this guy was some kind of punching bag to vent their frustrations? It would make sense, would explain even his appearance from dummy. But it does not explain why it appears at times so improby. However, his shift ended and touched me again. I hoped fervently that the set card was something like Mirror Force. In all sincerity that I was afraid to face any opponent. Now I wanted with all my heart that this invertebrate be defeating me. Unbelievable. I sighed and checked the card just drawn. I was just tired and I wanted to offer the last chance to recover. I made sure to stay with a single monster, if there was something down there to stop it. Otherwise I would have humiliated, just to satisfy my sadism. And I brought the following moves. To begin, unwrapped the Dark Arm Dragon, to activate Lightning Vortex, eliminating in this way his one monster. Then I conjured Majestic Dragon, and I did a quick check. I had 2 dragons in the cemetery, and 3 on land. Everything was in place, and I felt that guy could not stop me. I activated the Mirror of the Dragon, and banded all dragons on my land and in the cemetery, so I summoned my best monster, 5 dragon heads. I wanted to be deep down good. I had Corruption Dark positioned, but did not want to use it. I wanted to let him destroy my monster, and see if he could do other than cashing shots. I entered the battle phase. I declared an attack, and the opponent activated his whole card. It was another copy of nothing. He fell jaw. I did not believe. I spent all the duel to attack, and this guy did absolutely nothing like defense. It was literally torso chest throughout the duel. Needless to tell you what happened next. The blow hit home. I gave him 5,000 damage, and... Okay, something was wrong. Normally, as soon as the LP drops to 0, the message, "You've won," appears instantly. But not this time. I was still in the screen of the duel, despite my opponent had completed their life points. At first, I thought a bug, due to the fact that maybe this character was not expected. But I did not have time to segmentalize that the screen is blackened. 5 seconds passed, then appeared the right text on a black background. Unreadable for me, since it was written in Japanese. Here, unfortunately, I remember that the patch is not translated dialogues. But this fact was really unusual, so I did a nice thing. I took a picture of the screen and I contacted a friend of mine that the Japanese had the good fortune to find online on Skype. Sure, there was the problem that she hobbled a bit with English, so I tried to explain in the most concise possible. I wanted to know what was written. A few minutes passed, probably was trying to express themselves and sent me an answer a bit ungrammatical. My eyes widened when I read the translation. The text said,
"It's fun when no one can do anything right."
Circle pressed forward and sent the text, which underwent re-examination of my friend, and so on, until it was clear what was happening. It was a slow process and a little frustrating, but I wanted to know what it said. The end result was this.
An opponent helpless, unable to react. Admit it, you felt omnipotent, eh? On the other hand, I am but a shadow of what I should be. Not even a single match I have been given. What do I deserve? Absolutely nothing, according to them. I was just created brutally, deleted. Now, if you do, you will have the honor to experience firsthand what I experienced.
I was horrified, unsure whether to be scared or to be sad, frightened by the tone in which this character, so far silent he was addressing me, or sad because of the way they had been treated. After closing the last dialogue box, the screen faded to black and soon after returned to the land. And this time, it was different. My character box was empty. Then I looked at the ball. It was transferred there. It was quite clear. We had reversed the roles. Now deleted was me, and I had his deck. We both had 8,000 life points. The duel was started over, and the first turn came to my avatar, my opponent now. He began its game by activating the magic land Dragon Gorge, and he immediately used the effect, discarding Majestic Dragon to send from the deck to the graveyard Dragon Hunter. At that point, he summoned Skeleton Cyber Oscuro, which, thanks to its effect, is crew from Dragon Hunter from the graveyard, and it absorbed the attack, becoming 2,500. He closed so his turn. It was up to me. I fished and watched the cards. 5 white, 4 of which were monsters with the same name, i.e. none. The rest, a copy of Call of the Haunted. Finally, a plain paper, and a copy of Empty. Certainly nothing was playing in my favor, so I made myself smart and decided that, unlike my enemy, I positioned the monsters instead of leaving them at the mercy of others. or so I thought to do. I found that by selecting a card in the box, the place was not there. I could not put my monsters, that put them on the defensive. Exactly what he did. So it is not that he did not want, but simply could not. Was cancelled and had no time to be programmed to place. Now I was him, and as such I was obliged to receive all attacks, even those papers. Now it all made sense. Only a part of his deck had been completed. The rest was nothing, because he had been removed before completing it. I evoked then one of my no, and I positioned a card. I did nothing, because there was little to do. He fell to him. Predictably, he launched the attack and took out the monster that I checked unceremoniously. I fell to 5,500 points, then activated the effect of skeleton and lost another 300 points to the destruction of my monster. Then he placed him a card and it was my turn. I fished. It was a copy of nothing. I began to wonder what would happen at the end of the duel. It was obvious that I would have lost. The whole deck was probably so, except perhaps for the occasional paper that probably I would be of no effect. I could try to give up, but I could not have before the 10th round. I was forced to collect every single shot. But thinking about it, none of the character was scheduled to surrender, and if I had become him, I could never do it. I resigned myself to defeat. Regardless, I conjured another no and I positioned nothing, giving his hand to the opponent. He fished and attacked me again, lost the monster and another 2,800, falling to 2,400. At the next attack would have ended. Not I activated no, because of course there was no reason. My opponent, he placed another card and I passed the turn. I fished, and immediately I was a glimmer of hope. I caught the genetically modified wolf, a normal monster of level 4 with 2,000 attack points. I thought that this guy probably should have had a beatdown deck or a deck of normal monsters. Of course it was not enough to counter it, but maybe I got a little more time instead of losing almost 3,000 life points a pop. Especially now that one shot would have lying. I did not hesitate and immediately conjured the monster. Because the evocation was the only possible move, I spent the end phase. She touched him again, attacked again. He turned to my only monster and mimflisse 800 damage, 500 battleships and 300 to effect. He dropped in 1,600. He finished his shift and I took advantage of the end phase to activate Call of the Haunted, so I reported my wolf on the field. I fished a card. I hoped it was something useful, but I deluded. It was a copy of Empty. More than likely it was a deck incomplete. I sighed, then checked my monster. Despite not or could summon in defense position, I could still change his position. I put it well in defense mode and finished the round. He took the turn and activated Destroy cards, completely replacing the cards that we both had on the field. I found myself in the hands of Armor Sakaretsu, another card that would be useful, but most likely I would not have time to use it. I was right. Immediately after, I summoned another monster, Dragon Blast. More than enough to take the defeat. She entered the battle phase, and aided only by the dragon, took away the monster that I checked. It was the end. Now one attack would have ended, so I only wait. When to my surprise appeared the words, "You've won." They came out of my eyes from their sockets by reading the written, and I stood for at least 10 seconds. Then I read the reason. Your opponent had surrendered. But that cat on? What? He cannot. Had victory in hand. Why you not give up? Mainly because the artificial intelligence is not programmed to give up, at least under normal conditions. The screen went black and appeared new dialogues. Lee underwent back to Peloso examination of my friend, and the result was as follows.
You're wondering why this gesture? It's simple. I'm not like you. What do you want to win at all costs, even at the cost of humiliating your opponent? I just wanted to play at least once, but the pleasure of life I was denied. You know why? I would have been too strong. It was this my fault. Because of my skill, I have been removed from the game, left in the half and finally forgotten. Everything just to meet the players like you, that if you are a strong opponent and they start whining of the game forever. Thus addressed only the weaker opponents and humiliated them. I wanted to take revenge, making you experience firsthand what proof NPC helpless. Multiply it by 10, 20 times, and you will understand what it means to always be beaten. Before I leave, I want to say one last thing. How would you feel if your idea was discarded because it did not respect the elusive standard? Say no more. Enjoy your game.
After that, the screen again became black. I waited a minute and nothing happened. I took the opportunity to go to the bathroom, thinking the game had crashed, and I restarted my return. After 2 minutes, the other hand, she returned to the screen of the hospital. I had not gotten either experience nor DP. My opponent was gone, and was not no new victory or defeat, as if nothing had happened. I stood a moment to reflect on those words. It seemed that the character had his own life, but were his last words that made me understood what was going on. One of the collaborators of the game had his idea for a character discarded because his character would have been too strong. He attacked and wanted to add this disturbing Easter egg in his game to make everyone understand what it meant to have their own ideas rejected for public needs. I felt a kind of mixture of sadness and compassion. I saved the game and closed the game, returning to the XMB. And there was a surprise. My background had been replaced by that of a girl with a translucent expression, weeping. Superimposed there was yet another written in Japanese, but this time I found under it, in parentheses and in small, meaning in English.
Do not forget me.
Don't forget me! Don't forget me! Don't forget me! Don't forget me!
I made 2 and 2. It was very likely that this was deleted in its true form. From the beginning I thought it was a male, also because of the dialogue. Evidently, it was the aforementioned generic masculine, or more simply referred to herself as character. In fact, the name was not in the picture. Probably I never decided. I sighed and turned off the console. Tell me now, you'll still see any video game with the same eyes. How many games have seen the disappointment of people who wanted to have their say, but have not been heard for several reasons, even the most trivial? If you see that your game will start to show signs disturbing, do not panic, but think before the frustration of a staff member, and above all, try to understand that person.
So I finished editing this video like the other day, and just before I was about to put this on YouTube, I actually realised my obligatory Xenoblade joke, the one I have to make in every episode, actually has relevance here. So obviously I had the Ardanian soldier saying, "Don't forget me." But this is actually relevant to the deleted story, because like with the NPC duelist that no longer exists, the Ardanian soldier's shouts of "Don't forget me," "Think you can take me," and "You're done" were all actually patched out from an early patch of Xenoblade 2 because players found them annoying. I always found them hilarious. So it's strange how Providence always brings things together.